I said, why me? I ate organic food. I was good to the earth. I was a milk hauler and watched all these beautiful farms go away. We're a very foolish society. We had a sustainable lifestyle here.
Last year, I'm talking now more about my area of the state. This was sort of a kind of, well, why not do it? It's jobs, jobs, jobs. That kind of prevailed in 2012. That was what I felt and heard in my district. But I have watched and felt a change in the last several months where people are starting to pause and think a little bit more about this and what is really the trade-off of these sometime jobs, maybe sometime, maybe a certain number, maybe in the future, quite a ways in the future. More of the public learned of the role of the Corps of Engineers and other people besides the DNR, the legal rights that the tribe has. More of Wisconsin knows all that now. So I don't know where this ends. I'm not as optimistic as I'd like to be, but I am an optimist. And I do know that your voices ultimately do matter. We've heard so much about 7 generations and so on. You know, some of these things, sometimes you don't win the first day, but you eventually, I think eventually the public will does prevail. I watched the public will prevail on the Vietnam War, on civil rights legislation. I've lived long enough to see that the public will on smoking in public buildings and so on, restaurants, bars. I've seen ultimately, and those were many multi-year fights. So I didn't actually, when I started out, I didn't intend to talk this long, but I thank you all very much, and I thank you again for doing this and for all of you caring enough to be here. And I know that you want to be here. That's the sense. That's the thing I feel. It isn't like, gosh, I wish you were out here. I was out here at noon so I could go shopping, and I don't get that feeling at all. Thank you very much. And I've got a good driver here in Senator Schultz, so I don't have to drive. So I'm kind of lucky. But thank you all very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Don't let.
Just know that if this goes through, that we're going to be there, and just remember how we laughed here, and just remember the emotion that we all had together.
Yeah,
we cried, we laughed, we had a good time.
Yeah.
We are people, so we're going to fight that crap if it goes down there.
Thank you.
I learned a lot of things today. One of the things for sure I'll walk away with is you can't mitigate Lake Superior.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Senator Cullen. Thank you, Senator Schultz. Don't let. Don't.
Again, the remaining crowd here at the American in Ashland is standing and clapping as Senators Schultz and Cullen leave.
Everybody tell you that bipartisanship is not possible. Senator Schultz deserves a Profile and Courage Award for demonstrating it can work and work well. Second of all, don't ever let anybody tell you that politicians don't care about people, because you had an example, not only of these two, but of my colleagues, some of whom had to leave earlier, who came this way because it matters. Now, we're going to get back into the testimony. I do want to, just before we do, point out that I had contemplated a time limit of 3.5 minutes, and chose not to, because it's better to take the extra time that we had than cut it off and deprive us of the heartfelt feelings that have been expressed here today. It is also important for you to know that we are going to share. I've been taking notes, by the way, because I can't read my writing. But we're going to do a report in the best way we can. We're going to share the feelings of both sides that have been shared here today. And this has been and will continue to be an incredibly powerful hearing. Janet and I and Steve Smith from Shell Lake, represents Barron County, are going to stay here till the last person has spoken, and we look forward to your testimony. So, Louise, please.
If anybody wants to move up, we're starting to feel kind of lonely. So why don't you come on up, move up a little closer. These seats are all empty until you get to the back, so come on forward, make it a little more intimate. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Louise, and talk about feeling lonely. You used to be my representative, and you used to be my beloved senator. I still count you as mine, even though officially you are not. I'm kind of like the orphans out there now. So thank you, thank you, thank you. As usual, you are still the stars of the Northland. My name is Louise. I'm from the township of Ojibwe in the county of Sawyer. I represent my ancestors, myself, my family, and the relatives that might follow. I dedicate my testimony to the memory of the late Roscoe and Evelyn Churchill, whose grassroots environmental activism resulted in our current strict standards for mining permits, which require mining companies to prove it first, and the 1998 Wisconsin Mining Moratorium Law. AB and SB1 is an attack on those good laws. Despite the evidence all around us in Michigan and Minnesota of barren rivers, wildlife dying for no discernible reason, an increasing number of our children who can't learn, the newborns with high levels of mercury in their body, many people with mesothelioma who work in mines or live near those open pit mines, thousands of acres of waste and millions of gallons of wastewater that are just waiting for another severe weather event. Despite all this evidence, the proponents of the open pit mining bill willfully reject these objective facts and deny this proven science, and without even consulting the experts, such as the Army Corps of Engineers or the Great Lakes Indian Fish and Wildlife Commission, and without holding timely public hearings, they rush this bill right out of committee, and they will soon vote it into law. How did this happen? It seems so easy. Number one, you draw lines on maps that are favorable to your side behind closed doors. Number two, you declare Wisconsin open for business. Number three, you receive $15.6 million in campaign contributions from the mining lobby. Number four, you write the law so it's favorable to the mining companies, and it's done. It was easy. But it is not what the majority of people in Wisconsin want. We want clean water and clean air, and we want to be able to count on a future that ensures that clean water and that clean air for 7 generations to come, and then 7 more generations, and then 7 more generations. I want to be the voice for another environmentalist who is also late. His name is, meaning he's deceased, his name is George A. Corrigan. He is the author of this book called Cult Books and Cant Hooks, which is all about the logging era. It was published in 1976. He was born and he grew up in Mineral Lake in Ashland County, right here. And he lived in Mellon, and he raised his family in Saxon, and he worked all over the surface of the Penokee Hills in the lumber era. In the preface of his book, he asked that timbermen never be forgotten for the contributions that they made in the building of the great Midwest, and so I honor his memory. In Chapter 3, page 29, in his book, I quote, "It'll just take me a minute. My next move was to Camp 31 on the Potato River after Camp 29 finished its cut in the spring of 1915. This was a dandy campsite, the water rippling by along with the slight sound of water going over the falls, made for excellent sleeping condition. Another thing, the camps were blessed with good drinking water, as the Penokee Range country is noted for its famous spring water. The areas from the Tyler Forks River east of Gurney for 1 mile are especially blessed with excellent water. The people in that area should keep on the alert so those nice freshwater creeks, streams, and lakes never become polluted. End of quote. If you can hear me, George Corrigan, we're on it. During the heyday of the logging boom era, there was a saying, Hayward, Hurley, and hell. Hayward is the county seat of Sawyer, where I live, just a little southwest of the proposed open pit mine, and Hurley is just a little northeast of it. If the open pit mine happens, and I don't believe it will, but if it happens, it will be the hell in between. And we will not be able to count on a future that includes clean air and water. This bill should not pass, but I think it will. Then we're going to stay alert, like George Corrigan asked. We're going to tie it up in court, or we're going to tie our bodies up to the Penokee Range, one or the other. It's not going to happen. And then I really have one request that you take back to your fellow lawmakers, and that is that we stop this stuff and pay attention to what we really need to pay attention to, and that is that we slow and stop the release of carbons, or no one will have a future to count on. Thank you.
Thank you, Louise.
Thank you.
Brenda. Followed by Nick, followed by John, followed by Jim.
Feeling slightly intimidated after that last. She was great. I'm Brenda Powers. I'm someone that has grown up in the big woods and loves the big woods and every rock and every tree and every acorn and every chipmunk. I've devoted my life to doing wildlife rehabilitation, which means I'm a tree hugger and I'm a bunny hugger. I'm also an eagle hugger and an osprey hugger, and have felt the thrill of just being in their presence. I wanted to come to witness the proceedings, to find out what people are thinking, and to testify. And I wanted to thank you all for coming. We feel honored that you could come up here. But a lot of the things that I want to say are to the people that couldn't come. The folks that write the laws and inflict them on people on the other end of the state, the people that are taking the money to get the bill to go. And we know what they're motivated by. They're motivated by greed, and they're motivated by money, and they're motivated by power. But I want to show you what I'm motivated by. I'm motivated by these boys. These are my future. This is my family's future. I have complaints from their mother because when I take them, she never knows what shape they're going to come back in. I've had to call her and tell her to bring clothes. They have none. They're all wet. And those are my motivation. And I can't look, and can you look in these faces and tell them that they don't count or that they won't see a future as good as ours was? And tell them that when they have grandchildren, that all they're going to be able to do is tell them stories about what used to be. So I ask myself, why again are we going through this? The famous definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over and expecting to get a different result. Remind you of anybody? So here we go again. There's a reason they call it Lake Superior. Anyone spending time here can feel the superiority of the area. They can feel it heal their hearts, their souls. I sometimes wonder, maybe the people that are making these decisions haven't spent one night in the woods, haven't spent an hour listening to the water and the birds. And somehow that's left a piece of their soul out. They just don't have that. I hope that's not the truth, because I tend to believe that anybody can be rehabilitated, even Republicans. So we'll go on with what we have left. The time will come, and the companies will come, and the companies will go, and you know, we'll get what's left over when they're done. But I can't believe that that's going to happen. I can't believe that in a country that some folks put millions and trillions of dollars into a presidential election trying to buy it from the people, and we still prove them wrong. If this country can still, after all of that money, after all of that advertising, after all the brainwashing, still realize the man we have in power is a man we can trust. And I just felt a lot of really big things for our country that day. So, in finishing, there used to be a politician, I think her name was Palin, and she talked about this Mama Grizzly. She's got nothing on us. We're Grandma Wolverines, and we're gonna be watching you. I also heard a wonderful man that spoke at the last hearing, and for me, it's turned into my battle cry. Not on my land, not in my lifetime. Not in my land, and not in my lifetime. Keep that in your head. Thank you.
This is a special live broadcast of a listening session at the American in Ashland on the Democratic and Republican iron ore mining bills on Wisconsin Public Radio stations 90.9 WUWS in Ashland, 91.3 KUWS in Superior, and 97.7 WRNC.
My name is Nick Vanderpye. I live in Bayfield, and I'm a poor fisherman and a wild rice gatherer living off the products of this great inland sea. When my dad got out of the U.S. Marine Corps in 1953, he got on a train in San Diego, and he come back to Sheboygan. Sheboygan is about an hour north of Milwaukee. It's a coastal town. I'm a Dutchman, and I'm liminal. I like living near water. And when my dad got off that train, he went down to Stockinger's Bait Shop on Ontario Avenue, and he bought himself 2 bamboo poles. Remember bamboo poles? Remember perch fishing on Lake Michigan? He had his khakis on, and he had fought in the Korean War. And every day he was on that battlefield, he thought about coming home to go fishing. And that's what he did when he come home, and he was a young man. And he went down there and he got a bucket of shiners, and for the next 3 weeks while he was wearing his khakis, he fished. He caught perch. And if you remember perch, they've got green bars and very, very orange fins. And I have memories of him as a little boy looking at them in the sink and cutting them, because I loved to cut fish. And this went on. And when he didn't catch perch, he had a buck in his pocket, and he'd go down to the shanty. They had their nets rolled out there. And he would buy himself a whitefish. And he'd bring that whitefish home, and he would feed that to my mother. And about a year later, I was born. So I'm made of fish, okay? And I've made of deer meat. And now I'm made of wild rice. So let's go ahead to 2013. We've got this, the Indians call it a wendigo, a cannibal monster that is threatening our way of life. There's no question about that. Our food source is being threatened. When you were talking down in Madison last week, and I appreciate your fighting spirit, I went to the Red Cliff Natural Resources Department, and I talked with 2 people there. I talked with Sarah Roboleski and with Brian Bainbridge, who's a tribal council member.
And we talked about this threat. And here's what they told me. You build that mine, and I don't use the words of reality. I say, if you build that mine, whether it's on my shift or whether it's on my grandkids' shifts, within 2 years, that tailings pond will leak, and it's going to kill that wild rice. That's what's going to happen. You're going to attack our food supply that keeps these little babies strong and that cures diabetes and that we use in our naming ceremonies and we use at every sacred feast. You're going to kill that food that grows on water, which is why the people are here to begin with, and it's why I'm here to begin with. And furthermore, to power this project, you'll have to build another coal-fired generating plant. You're going to need 300 megawatts of electricity. This current production in Ashland produces about 30 megawatts. It could go up to 70. And according to my elder, Joe Rose, that polluting plant burns tires half the time that are raining down on this beautiful inland sea, this great ocean that we live on. So that's what they told me. The sulfides in this deposit will increase the methylization of mercury. So that every Indian kid and every white kid that's born along this rim is going to be feeding on that mercury-contaminated fish. And that is going to affect them. And it was something that Walt Brissett warned us about repeatedly. And I'm carrying that message from McCoon's. That's who I am. So that's going to happen. And it's not just about the Anishinaabe. It's about all of us, the Dutchmen, the Germans, the Hmong, the Finlanders. It's about all of us. I walked down to the fish docks. I love seeing fish being cut. I love to cut fish. And I went down and I talked with Jeff Bodine, Bodine Fisheries. He's a fourth-generation fisherman. And they had tubs of whitefish, and my cousin, Joe Vanderpy, had his fillet knife, and I wanted to jump in and cut fish and eat some livers. Raw. But I talked to Jeff Bodine, and I told him, what's this fishery worth? He said, well, we got 10 commercial licenses for non-Indians. There's 14 Indian fish boats that go out and they harvest these fish, these adekamek. The caribou of the sea. That's what they're referred to in the language, the caribou of the sea. If you read the news, the moose are disappearing from northeastern Minnesota, 35% loss this past year. We still have the caribou of the sea swimming out there. We have herring. I love to make soup out of herring with rutabagas and garlic. I love to eat that kind of fish.
I really like to know what you like to eat, but let's try to,
No.
so that people will be able to get home to eat tonight. Let's try to prep it along.
Really? You want me to hurry it up?
In respect of other people who want to testify.
There's a couple people left. I've been waiting.
About 30 people left.
Okay. Well,
30 people.
I'm going to tell you what.
30 people, that's an hour or 2 hours. Look, I'm just being.
Yeah, you're being totally fair. I understand.
I would think.
Okay.
I would.
Well, I'll
think
tell you
would
what Jeff
agree with
Bodine.
that.
I want to tell you what Jeff Bodine told me. The herring fishery this past fall was worth $1 million. That was 75 jobs. I priced whitefish in Manhattan 2 days ago. It's going for $20 a pound. Smoked whitefish is $59. Those are jobs. You're threatening those jobs by doing this. As the state of Wisconsin, this is an attack upon our subsistence, okay? And if an alien force or Al-Qaeda or the Germans or the North Koreans invaded our territory like you are invading our territory with this despicable mining project, we would be fully justified in using any amount of force to repel you. And that's not just a radical Nick Vanderpy saying it. Chuck Stoddard said the same thing 25 years ago. You're treating us like a third world peripheral colony. And we are mad and angry about it. There's also one more thought. Jimmy Hudson, who was a commercial fishing guide out here, who perished out here a week ago, was a fishing guide.
Yes.
who made a lot of money guiding fishermen. Those fishermen like to eat fish. You put more mercury into the atmosphere, you're not going to be able to eat those fish.
Thank you. Thank you.
Miigwech.
So John Moyer is next.
Somebody who you said their name when they were calling.
Keep adding. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is John Moyer. I'm from Port Wing, and I come here to speak as a native. Originally born in Texas, grew up in La Crosse, but I'm here to speak as a native. I'm a few months short of having walked the face of this earth for 70 years. That qualifies me as a native. I've traveled as much as I possibly can through the United States and Canada. I've traveled from Key West, where I put my pickup and my wife out in the water and then walked away to watch her squeal, all the way to Prudhoe Bay, all on 4 wheels. I've traveled from Bisbee, Arizona, in the shade of those tailings piles, to Glace Bay, Nova Scotia. I've seen mine after mine after mine. I walked under the Atlantic Ocean in an abandoned coal mine in Glace Bay, Nova Scotia, one of the most depressed places I've ever seen. The reason being, the mine is gone. The mining is gone. The mine is there, but the mining's gone. I was taken down there by an old miner by the name of Abby Mahalik. Very wonderful person, but scratching and scratching and scratching and scratching to keep his family together, putting his kids through college, every one of them which he did put through college. My wife grew up in Black River Falls, Wisconsin. My youngest brother-in-law was a miner at Jackson County Iron Company until economic factors, not a lack of ore, said, we're going to close it. Mining is a very fickle way to make a living. They tore down an almost new mill, they ripped out the tracks, and they let the hole fill with water. That was after sitting there with a maintenance man on site for years, so they didn't have to do reclamation because it was not officially closed. And when that got to the point where they were done with that, they gave it to Jackson County for a park. You know, we're real good at letting mine companies walk away by giving things away to counties and states. Mining is a very fickle way to make a living. It's a false god. I drive by the mine at Ladysmith, the mine site. The sign there now says Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources Service Center. It's now leaching chemicals into the flambeau. Who do we go after? Mining is a false god. It doesn't make sense. They say 30 years. Empire is shut down in the UP right now. They've slowed down production in the mines in Minnesota. They're shutting down lines at the mills. We're going to tear this all up and then have them say, well, due to economic factors, we're done. See ya. Here you are, Iron County. Have a park. Park? A hole in the ground? Don't tell me it ain't going to happen. You don't know that it's not going to happen. Nobody knows whether it's going to happen or not. But looking at their record, by God, I think it'll happen if they can get away with it. When they first talked about mining in the Penokees, I was sick to hear it. But I wanted to say, you know, if we strengthen our laws and hold their toes to the fire, we might be able to have a mine in Iron County. The first thing they want to do, well, we'll speed up the process, but we won't screw around with the environmental protection. And when the bill comes out, that's the first thing it does, or the biggest thing it does, is give them carte blanche. I debated on coming over here. I sat for 12 or 13 hours in Hurley last spring, drove home in a hell of a snowstorm, and everything I had to say was redundant. What I got to say today is basically redundant. But I decided this morning, you know, I'm not going to stay home. I'm going to go over and shoot my mouth off. I don't care. I have to stand up. The Red Cliff and the Bad River people, they're my brothers. They're our brothers. I'll lay down in the roads with them. I'll stand in the roads with them. I'll stand here with them. The whole idea of a mine is gone. I thought possibly at one point it could be done, but these people have proven that it can't be done. They don't want to mine responsibly. Why would we have the kind of bill we have if they wanted to mine responsibly? I guess I'm going to say something. I wish there were enough people here from Madison or Washington to be offended, because I don't think I'm going to offend you people. I appreciate you people, but I'll tell you, we're sending so many people to Madison and to Washington that have one thing, I think, in the back of their mind. Maybe I can suck my way into being part of the 2%. That's what's going on. This is not the United States of America anymore. It's the corporate states of America. And it's the only thing I can see. They think that if they kiss enough butts, those up at the top will let them climb in. They're going to send us down the river in the process. And I'm ranting, but, you know, it's worth ranting about. I live in Port Wing. I left La Crosse. You know La Crosse is God's country? It said so right in the G. Heileman Brewery ads. This is God's country. But I left God's country to come up here. Why? Because I love it. It's unique. It's as good as you can get in Wisconsin. And if you destroy it, I don't know where I'm going. I used to think I liked the UP, but then I get over there and look at those holes in the ground. Maybe what we ought to do is grab the UP and everything north of Highway 8 and get that old secession thing going again and create the state of Superior. Thank you all. I appreciate you listening to me go off.
Thank you.
You know, I have to say something. Quite a few people said before we started this listening session, what's the point? This isn't an official hearing. Why are you doing this? And I can tell you that having sat here and I know I'll have the privilege of sitting here until the last person speaks, something happens when you say something out loud in front of other people. Maybe somebody spoke here today for the first time who never said something. Maybe you heard somebody say something that you never thought of before. But we are changed every time we come together and speak out loud. So does this mean something? You're damn right it means something. Thank you.
Jim Jensen. Not only am I changed, I'm a lot older. Jim.
Thank you. I want to thank Senator Jauch. I've been very impressed with your dogged pursuit of appropriate mining laws in the state of Wisconsin. You've really impressed me every time I've heard you on the radio and in person. Thank you very much.
Janet Bewely, the same goes for you. Okay, I'm going to make it short, really short. I've got some experience too. I could tell. I have a pension, a small pension from the United Steelworkers of America. I have a degree in wildlife biology. I've worked for the Forest Service, U.S. Forest. I forget all that stuff. I'm going to tell you, for the last 20 years, I've lived just south of here, 20 miles in the Penokee Hills, in Henry David Thoreau type of life. I'd raised my kids. They graduated from Ashland College. They're both professionals. They're doing really well. They're happy. They got a good education here, and they went where they needed to go. But their dad says, I'm going to see how simply he can live. I live off of $2,000 a year. I'm a neighbor of David Zebsik, the man who spoke so eloquently here, the Four Corners Bar store. I live cheaper than he did. It works really well, and it's really easy. But let me tell you a true story, and then I'll shut up. I have chickens, and I have geese. I raise almost all my own food. SB1, it's pretty obvious. We all know it. We don't have to. I don't need to tell any of you. It's the fox guarding the chicken house. But if I've learned anything about life, I've learned that, you know, we don't know all the answers. We can think we've got them right, and we don't. The surer you are that you think you're right, it's probably an inverse relationship to whether you have it right. I'll give you an example. Last year, I was losing my baby geese one at a time. They were about 8 pounds and wonderful, pleasant little things. I really enjoyed them. I actually eat them. I live off them. They're a wonderful way to turn grass into protein. But anyway, one, then another, then another. I felt terrible. I slept up in my haymow, and I put a trap out there. And for several nights, they still got them. I couldn't figure it out. I asked the DNR to come out and help me. They said, no, we don't do that. I put a trap, slept up in my haymow. At 6 o'clock in the morning, I went inside to try and get a good night's sleep, because now it's light. And I came out there an hour later, and my geese were gone again. Well, anyway, long story short, I found the mother fox, and I shot her, and there she lay dead, bloated belly, had lost most of her hair. Her nipples were large. She was feeding her babies. I felt terrible. There's no free lunch on planet Earth. There is no free lunch anywhere on planet Earth. I don't know if you know that, but that was a statement made by an ecologist in the 70s. Does anybody know who said that? No free lunch on planet Earth? See, we've already forgotten.
Gaylord.
No, but actually, I was with Gaylord on the first Earth Day. Shut up, Jim. Thank you, gentlemen, ladies.
Who said it?
Well, I know, but it just missed my mind. I was hoping somebody would tell me.
You don't even know.
He's a famous ecologist. He's a Jewish boy. No, it's not. He's not from Wisconsin. No free earth, no free meal.
I'll tell you what we're going to do. Somebody can Google it.
Who?
Milton Friedman.
Yeah, it sounds like something Milton Friedman, but it wasn't.
All right. Somebody's going to Google it and come on up and let us know. And thank you very much.
You're listening to a special live broadcast of a listening session on the Democratic and Republican iron ore mining bills at the American in Ashland on 90.9 WUWS in Ashland, 91.3 KUWS in Superior, and 97.7 WRNC LP Ashland, Northland College Community Supported Radio. It's 12 minutes past 4 o'clock. I'm Danielle Kading.
It's all right. Hello, thanks for hearing from me today. I know we've all been waiting for a long time, but it's been really nice to hear what everyone's had to say. Can you hear me all right? Perfect. Well, I'm here today to speak against the proposed legislations, all of them. I think the current mining law is just fine the way it is. Thank you. I'm speaking as a local resident, as a future biology teacher, and as a student leader from the University of Wisconsin. I grew up in the town of Kelly, have the Penokee Mountains right in the backyard, and I'm one of those people that's been fortunate enough to live there, fish there, hunt there, and enjoy all the natural resources. It's an area that my parents decided to move to. In 1978, they bought property there. Not because they thought there were great jobs up here. They surely didn't move up here from the Twin Cities, from southern Wisconsin, looking for economic opportunity, but because they were inspired by the beautiful area here. They had never seen anything like it in their lives, and they were willing to risk everything and build a small house out of wood off of our own land in order to try to live here. And that's exactly what they did, and they raised me here for all of my childhood. And it's really sad to think that if a mine comes here, if this area is polluted, if the bay loses that quality, the beauty, the health, the clean water, the clean air, well, we know we'll lose the resource we have here, the reason so many of us live here, but we'll also lose a lot of tourism industry. I currently live in the city of Superior now, where I'm going to college. And I guarantee you people are not going to stop at the Chequamegon Bay Superfund site. They're going to be on their way to northern Minnesota, and they're going to spend their dollars in Minnesota. That's where I'd go if I couldn't come here. And, of course, we can't ignore the science. This is not an iron formation that is decent to mine. Certainly the world needs resources. Certainly there have to be iron mines somewhere. But as the geologist from Northland College said, this iron deposit is on an axis. It's tilted badly. And there's no way to get that ore out without taking a lot of sediment off the top, and that's going to cause a lot of dust in the air, a lot of explosions, and a lot of pollution. So that's going to contaminate the water system. It'll all end up right in the bay. That's the only thing that can happen. It's as simple as any simple science experiment that we do in a lab. Whatever you put into the system is what's still there in the end. You can have your chemical reactions, but you put the stuff in, it's coming out somewhere. Where it's coming out is it's going to come out in the bay. I'm also the student body president of UW Superior, and I came here today to speak not just as a student leader from the University of Wisconsin, but as one of the member campuses of the United Council of UW Students. This is a lobbying organization that represents students in the University of Wisconsin colleges from all around the state. This organization has been against the proposed mine and legislation that changes the mining laws since the full ramifications of these changes were understood. I attended an annual sustainability conference for United Council last year where the proposed mine was a seminar topic, not just a local issue, a statewide issue in which students from all across Wisconsin got together to discuss the impact to state tourism, conservation efforts, and of course the devastation just to the Chequamegon Bay area. The opposition that stands here today is not just local people. It's not just those that would rather live here for the area. Sorry, I started reading something else. But anyways, it's not just local people. This is a state issue, and this is an issue to University of Wisconsin students. People from all over Wisconsin stand together. We stand with the Bad River Ojibwe Band. We stand with everyone here, and together we're not going to be silenced. And I'd just like to close with a phrase from a book that is very important to me particularly. It's the Sand County Almanac by Aldo Leopold, and this is a phrase that really strikes me. Cease being intimidated by the argument that a right action is impossible because it does not yield maximum profits, or that a wrong action is to be condoned because it pays. With that, I would also like to ask if anyone minds, I brought another UW student here today named Jade Wong, who has to make it to work soon, and she came all the way from Superior, but she's from Milwaukee, and she would like to speak very briefly on the issue.
We'll do it because she's next.
Thank you very much.
I was going to try to impress you and say, okay, we'll do that. And these people would allow it. That's what's so great. Jade, welcome.
Hello. Good afternoon. My name is Jade Wong, and my sister Jasmine and I wrote this speech together, and we are 19 years old. I am a resident of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and a first-year undergraduate student at the University of Wisconsin-Superior. I live in the city of Milwaukee, where we have cement rivers designated for runoff and caution signs on most beaches in which we are warned to swim at our own risk due to the pollution. And when I tell my friends that I swim in Lake Michigan, they say, ew, even though they have all done it. Some parents don't even allow their children to swim in Lake Michigan. I moved out of the big city to Superior to get out of the filth. I wanted a different experience, a clean one. If this mine comes, where will the runoff go and what will happen to the people like me who came to this area just to enjoy its beauty? If this passes and the mine is created, all of our natural resources will slowly depreciate through time, and all of our water and anything that is supported by the water will be poisoned. The marshes, wetlands, ecosystems will be destroyed, the crops poisoned. Everything that we love and cherish will slowly die or be unsalvageable. In 50 years, can you imagine telling your children and your grandchildren not to swim in Lake Superior? All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. Colleen? Colleen? Oh, there she is. Colleen Brandt? Colleen? Benuel? Devin Solter's next. Sheila Mitchell is after that. My eyes are getting a little weary, but Zulier, I'm sorry.
First, I would like to say that only love can stop this mine. Can't hear me. Oh, sorry. That only love can stop this mine. This is in defense of the earth. And so I'm a nonviolent person. I practice nonviolent civil disobedience since I was 13 in the civil rights movement. If you hear frustration or what might appear to be aggression, it is not. It is only in defense of the earth. So I'd like to begin with a question for everyone here, including the senators. Do you know of any other moratorium or ban in the United States that is being considered as I speak? It is in the state of Virginia. It is to keep the ban coalition is a group of local and state organizations working to maintain the existing ban on uranium mining in Virginia. More than 16,000 citizens have stated their support to ban the General Assembly, and over 100 government aid entities and nonprofit groups not part of the coalition have expressed deep concern about lifting Virginia's 30-year ban on uranium. The only reason I bring this up, this is Republicans. Again, once again, you are not alone, Wisconsin. I humbly and strongly greet you in the spirit of my ancestors and those coming. I speak for those who cannot speak, and for the water and for all life, the rocks and the woodlands. There are three big white lies that we've had to endure through our genocide. The three big white lies are that, oh, you came over the Bering Strait, not true. We've been here through ice ages for hundreds of thousands of years. You cannot see the remnants of our being here because we don't leave any. I speak for those who cannot speak. The second white lie. Oh, you were all fighting here, so we joined in and won. Not true. We were not fighting here. We had peace here. We had a peace hoop here. A peace hoop. I'll begin with Degana Wida in the northeast. Degana Wida, the peacemaker. who planted the seeds of peace, who had the roots of peace, who planted the tree of peace. He was the one who brought us, our prophet, who brought us the great binding law of peace, of which the Mohawks at Akwesasne and the Iroquois still govern themselves by. That is Algonquin. That is the witness of Algonquin and Iroquois in peace. I want to be very grateful here today for all the dancers, all the singers, all my fellow women warriors, my women warriors who stand for the water and for the land and for the future and for the connection of all. Chi miigwech, o mama aki ya. Nindanishinaabe Algonquin. Quinnipiac, Anishinaabe Algonquin Confederacy. Nindanishinaabe Mohikaniuk, Mohican, we are still here. Nindanishinaabe Watungsa Seso, my home. Nindanishinaabe Sakiuk, they have 26 names for us. They don't even know who we are, and we came in contact with them at the very beginning. Sakiuk, Nindanishinaabe Sakiuk. We were given recognition by the federal government, federal recognition in 2004 and 2005. They removed it. They would have had to give back all the state parks in Connecticut. They would have to give back all the state forests in Connecticut. They would have to give us back our grandmother's gardens. We suffered through 10 epidemics. We had 4 removals, and the last removal is here in Wisconsin of our people. Right now on our Quinnipiac River, we have the Yankee power plant. The Yankee power plant has been tried to shut down 3 times by the state of Vermont. This is our river. It's gone. It's got fish in it with all kinds of things on them, all kinds of poisonous growths, poison, and we can't get it shut down. You in Wisconsin have an opportunity to end genocide. You have the opportunity to end ecocide. We are survivors, Mohikaniuk, are survivors of ethnocide. In Canada, idle no more. In Canada, and I have been to the uranium mining sites. I have been to Cigar Lake at Pine House and heard the stories of the people of Pine House in 1980. They used the residential schools starting in the 20s. The government, the church, and the corporations who funded the residential schools, they used it to take our land. And now we have the biggest catastrophe at Cigar Lake. We have the biggest catastrophe at Blackfoot in Alberta with the tar sands. The Lakota standing strong. Remember Wounded Knee? They were threatened with mining. It's always mining. It's always land. On Christmas Day, I was in Duluth. We have the Duluth newspaper, and it announces Northland bedrock. Possible sighting for nuclear waste. I've been tracking this since '79. It is a threat. It is the unspoken in this room today. Merry Christmas, pagan. It was on Christmas Day. Across the whole earth, Native people, indigenous people stand to defend their lands. Defend all life for those who forgot. That's why we're here today, because somebody forgot where everything comes from, where everything we ever had or have or will have comes from. That's why we're here today. We occupy. We idle no more. I've been putting my hand up all day long in support of us, all Native people of the Western Hemisphere, and the Zapatistas who stood 40,000 strong last month, just like we are here. But they can't speak. They were silent, and everyone had to listen to them. I'm not quite done, but I will finish. I might make this suggestion to anyone who want, any CEOs or politicians who want to nuke us. I might make the suggestion that they be the first to go to Fukushima. They be the first to go to Chernobyl. They be the first to go to Hanford. In 1994, I was on the phone every day with the lawmakers in Minnesota to fight what was going on at Prairie Island over the nuke, dry cask storage, and I called them every day because I was reading 3 books about Hanford. In case everybody doesn't know, Hanford's the worst man-made environmental disaster in the world. It was the state senators and representatives who listened to me and who called the NRC and forced them to put pumps in so it doesn't explode. And at the same time, the fractured federal government tortured David So Happy on the Columbia River. He was a fisherman, just like his father,
Can you bring it to
And they tortured him, and he came out in tears, and he died. It was all to keep their secret quiet.
Thank you.
And across the world, the Quechua, trying to protect their land in Ecuador.
Thank you.
Across our continents.
Thank you. You've delivered a very passionate remarks.
Thank you for your time. I could go on for all night.
I know you can.
I love you all. You're all my brothers and
I know
sisters.
you can. But I didn't
and we all deserve better, but especially our future deserves better.
I understand.
Thank you.
I understand. I think a lot of you could go on longer, but remember, I didn't even let Joe Rose go on longer. As much as I love listening. Devin? Followed by Sheila, by Eric.
First, I'd like to pass some tobacco. Bujuani ni Indígena Cosmocuns. Ishduni Jaba Mashkazibi Ishkunigan. Mako Nindo Dame. To translate, my Anishinaabe name is Bear Cub. I'm from the Bad River Reservation. I'm of the Bear Clan. There's a lot I could speak about. I have this testimony here that I wrote out actually for the 23rd. I was unable to make it, so I'll start with that. I have traveled here from my people's homeland. Aki, Ande, Mejim, Nitigwage, Munkined Nebe. The land where food grows on water or from the water. I look around and see a lot of elders. Historically, for youth to speak for our people is unheard of. In our teachings, we go to one of our elders with Nibungi Shagan Asema, an offering of the sacred gift, tobacco. And I say, Nimeshome indaga adapen Nibungi Shagan Asema, Gage Gado Nin. I ask the elder to speak on my behalf. So first, I'd like to apologize to all my elders for not passing that tobacco. I'm sorry. In politics, government, and bureaucracy, traditional teachings don't matter. They have no meaning. I wonder why that is. Maybe someone can tell me. Just throw this ain't quite the speech I intended for the representatives we have here. I wish we had other representatives, but okay. So this panel has a choice to make. Are you or are you not going to pass legislation that will lead to the genocide of Wisconsin citizens? Crazy. I truly believe that this issue would have been off the table by now. How many times does the state representatives have to hear and see the evidence of mass destruction from mines? How many times do you have to hear the word no? If this was a murder case, you would be on your way to prison. You know what I think? I think this is a murder case of sorts. Metaphorically speaking, you are parents of children who are asking you if it is okay to shoot up their school. These kids are saying, come on, it's a lot of lunch money. Think of your decision like this. You are the parents. Your kids are mining companies. And the lunch money is natural resources that can never be replaced. It's blunt, but it's true. There is no such thing as responsible, safe mining. Only death, sickness, pain, poisoned water, and poverty from past and present mining operations. First, look at our neighbors as examples, Minnesota, Michigan. Then look at our cousins, all the other states who have tried to implement mining. It just doesn't work. Mankind needs water. The environment needs water. Water is life. Water is the lifeline of a key, Earth. Everything dies without water. I also have this pack here. The ladies at the front desk that they were going to get you a copy of all this work. But just going through the pack real quickly, I have a list of 13 sovereign nations that border Lake Superior. Those are 13 sovereign countries. No country has authority over the other. I'll name the list. You'll read it anyway. The Grand Portage Band of Lake Superior Chippewa. Red Cliff Band of Lake Superior Chippewa. Bad River Band of Lake Superior Chippewa. Leance Band of Lake Superior Chippewa. Bay Mills Band of Lake Superior Chippewa. Ontonagon Band of Lake Superior Chippewa. Fort Williams Ojibwe First Nation. Pays Platte First Ojibwe Nation. Pick River First Nation. Batchewana Ojibwe First Nation. Then the United States of America and the Canadian government. It's in the packet. I'll read this excerpt here. The title of this is Fulfilling Ojibwe Treaty Promises, an overview and compendium of relevant cases, statutes, and agreements. Treaty rights recognition and affirmation. The 11-member tribes of the Great Lakes Indian Fish and Wildlife Commission, or GLFWIC, each entered into one or more treaties with the United States in the 1800s. In the treaties signed in 1836, 1837, 1842, and 1854, the tribes reserved hunting, fishing, and gathering rights in the areas, both land and water. Ceded to the United States, it must be emphasized that these ceded territory rights were not given or granted by the United States. They were reserved for the tribes by themselves. The exercise of these rights was and continues to be fundamental to the tribes, our culture, and our ways of life, and explains their insistence on explicitly. Yes.
Explicitly.
Perfect. Reserving them in the treaties. The tribes share a traditional and continued reliance upon fish, wildlife, and plants to meet our religious, ceremonial, medicinal, subsistence, and economic needs. Therefore, to maintain this lifeway and meet these needs, the tribes reserve the rights to hunt, fish, and gather in these ceded territories. Now, I'm just going to throw in implementing a mine within not just the Penokees, but any mine within the ceded territory that basically voids out the United States agreement to fulfill their half of saying, yeah, we're going to reserve the land for you to use for hunting and fishing. We're going to help you reserve it. So putting a mine on ceded territory when the mine is known to cause diseases, known to kill animal, fish, plant life, that's voiding out the treaties. That's saying that the United States government don't care about treaties. Now, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but last I knew that a state has no power to make decisions for the United States of America. But anyway, I mean, I got a lot of information like everybody else, and it means a lot of stuff rushing through my head. But I'd like to read this quote. It's actually the newspaper we can find here. It's Indian Country News. And it says here, the Paiutes recall devastation of copper mining. They got the minerals out and left. Vernon Rogers told the Reno Gazette-Journal about the Anaconda operation. That mine site is like our living room. That is like us going into their house, digging up their living room, and leaving. That's what we've got here. These mining companies come in and do this, and then the permanent residents suffer the consequences. A pretty horrible picture, too. It makes you want to, like, cover your eyes and run away.
The Native people also knew that the Creator had given everything for us to survive on this earth.